Why did ancient humans sleep on bare ground? You spend about a third of your life asleep. You have a mattress, a pillow, maybe even a weighted blanket. And still, some nights, you can't sleep. Now imagine this. No mattress, no roof, no walls, just cold ground, total darkness, and somewhere out there in the black, something is moving. That was bedtime for most of human history. And what scientists discovered about how ancient humans actually slept is something almost nobody talks about. Because it turns out, sleeping on the ground wasn't just survival. It may have been something far stranger, far smarter. And it changed the human brain in ways we're only beginning to understand. Here's the first thing that shatters the simple picture. Ancient humans didn't just collapse on dirt and hope for the best. Archaeological evidence going back hundreds of thousands of years shows they were deliberate, calculated, almost architectural about where and how they slept. At a site in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, archaeologists discovered what may be the world's oldest known beds. They were made of compacted plant material, grass, leaves, and sedge layered together. They were over 200,000 years old. And here's the twist nobody expected. The plants weren't chosen at random. Many had natural insect-repelling properties. Ancient humans were essentially building pest-controlled sleeping environments 200,000 years before the first mattress company ever existed. They weren't sleeping on bare ground because they didn't know better. They were doing the best with what nature gave them, and they were doing it with remarkable intelligence. But not everyone had a cave. Not everyone had time to build a grass bed. For millions of years before that, our earliest ancestors slept wherever they could. And the question of where they slept was often the most dangerous decision of the day. For millions of years, our earliest ancestors didn't sleep on the ground at all. They slept in trees. Chimpanzees and other great apes still do this today, building fresh sleeping platforms high in the branches every single night. Our ancestors almost certainly did the same. So the real question isn't why ancient humans slept on the ground. The real question is, when did they come down from the trees and why? Scientists believe the shift happened gradually between 1 and 2 million years ago as early humans evolved to walk upright and began living in open grasslands. Trees became less available. The ground became inevitable. But the ground was terrifying. Lions, hyenas, leopards, snakes. Every predator that hunted at night was down there. So ancient humans developed a solution so elegant that traces of it still exist in our biology today. They slept in groups. Never alone, always together. Sleeping in a tight cluster meant more ears listening, more eyes ready to open at the slightest sound, and more bodies generating warmth. And here's the truly fascinating part. Researchers studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last traditional hunter-gatherer societies, discovered something remarkable. The entire group almost never sleeps deeply at the same time. In a community of more than 30 people, someone is almost always awake or in a very light stage of sleep. Researchers calculated that during an average night, there were only about 18 minutes when every single person was asleep at once. 18 minutes. The rest of the night, at least one person was alert. Ancient humans weren't simply sleeping. They had created a living biological alarm system. Then something changed everything. Fire. The discovery and control of fire fundamentally transformed human sleep. Fire brought warmth during freezing nights. Fire pushed back the darkness. Fire made predators hesitate. And fire changed what happened before sleep. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, including the Hadza and the San people of southern Africa, show that evenings around the fire were filled with storytelling, singing, laughter, and social bonding. Not endless scrolling, not stress. Just a slow and peaceful winding down where knowledge was shared, conflicts were resolved, and relationships grew stronger. One anthropologist even described the evening fire as the glue that held the entire community together. Ancient humans weren't just sleeping on the ground. They were having the most meaningful conversations of their lives before closing their eyes. Life was brutally hard. Injuries, infections, hunting, gathering, and constant danger placed enormous physical demands on the human body. Sleep wasn't a luxury. It was survival. A tired hunter was a dead hunter. Ancient humans needed deep recovery. But they also couldn't afford to remain completely unconscious for 8 uninterrupted hours. Their sleep may have been different from ours. Not one long block, but something far more flexible. Now, let's talk about some of the biggest myths. The first myth is that ancient humans simply collapsed wherever they happened to be. Wrong. Evidence from caves and archaeological sites shows carefully chosen sleeping areas, separate from places used for cooking or making tools. In many ways, they had bedrooms. They just look very different from ours. The second myth is that they slept 8 uninterrupted hours every night. Probably not. Research suggests that people living without artificial light often experience biphasic sleep. 2 separate sleeping periods with a quiet waking interval in between. Historian Roger Kirch found countless historical references to first sleep and second sleep, suggesting that this pattern remained normal for thousands of years. The idea of one perfect 8-hour sleep may actually be a modern invention created by electricity and strict work schedules. The third myth is that ancient nights were always miserable and terrifying. The reality is much more complex. Without light pollution, stars become incredibly bright. A full moon can illuminate entire landscapes. Even a small fire creates warmth, light, and a sense of safety. Ancient sleep wasn't luxurious, but it wasn't constant misery either. It was simply life, and the human body adapted to it over millions of years. The fourth myth is that ancient humans slept as little as possible because survival demanded constant vigilance. Ironically, some evidence suggests they actually slept more efficiently than many modern people. A study published in 2015 found that several hunter-gatherer societies averaged between 5.7 and 7.1 hours of sleep each night, less than modern recommendations. Yet they experienced excellent sleep quality and almost no insomnia. The irony is striking. Despite our expensive mattresses, blackout curtains, sleep trackers, and smart technology, modern humans often sleep worse than people who once slept on the ground. Now here are some surprising discoveries. Some researchers believe direct contact with the Earth's surface may influence inflammation and sleep quality. This idea, known as earthing, is still being studied. Ancient humans spent every night in direct contact with the ground. Whether this offered measurable health benefits remains uncertain, but scientists are beginning to question the assumption that sleeping on the ground was always harmful. Another fascinating discovery is that ancient humans likely used the stars and the moon to regulate their sleep. Traditional societies often organized daily life around the movement of the sky. Modern humans have almost completely lost that connection. Today, most of us wake not because of a sunrise, but because an alarm interrupts a sleep cycle that took millions of years to evolve. Researchers have also found that in many traditional societies, children, elders, and the sick slept closest to the fire, surrounded by the rest of the group. This pattern appears across cultures so consistently that many anthropologists believe it reflects a deeply evolved human instinct to protect the most vulnerable. And finally, dreams themselves may have served a survival purpose. Some scientists believe REM sleep acted as a form of threat rehearsal. Dreams about predators, danger, and escape may have helped the brain prepare for real-life survival. If that's true, then ancient humans sleeping on the ground surrounded by genuine danger may have experienced dreams that were more important than we ever imagined. Tonight, when you climb into your bed, adjust your pillow, pull up your blanket, or check your phone one last time, remember this. Ancient humans didn't sleep on the ground because they were primitive. They slept on the ground because that was the foundation of human experience. From that cold, dark, dangerous beginning, they discovered fire. They built shelters. They created grass beds. They formed communities. They shared stories beneath the stars. They protected one another while they slept. And somewhere in the darkness, while predators circled beyond the firelight, the human brain was quietly evolving, becoming curious enough to ask questions, brave enough to lie down in the dark, and determined enough to wake up and try again. That determination is the reason you exist. And it all started on the ground.